Hi, good afternoon. Uh, we are going live for calls around the world right now. Sat Shri Akal, my name is Harleen. I am a psychotherapist, and today I am your success and relationship coach. I have been given the honor and the pleasure of conducting a parenting seminar for the KATW group on Facebook today. We are going to talk about parenting, what it means to parent, the different nuances of parenting, and of course, we're going to open the floor for a lot of questions towards the end. I do expect this to be a very interactive seminar. So, chime in, give me all comments and information so that we can have an interesting and interactive session as we move ahead. Thank you so much, organizers of the CAT group, for Umid, especially for getting in touch with me and getting this on board. Thank you, dear Umid. Let's start with parenting, right? What is parenting? Um, the dictionary says that parenting is the activity of bringing up a child. That's simple, but still we all struggle with it. Think about it, right? But parenting for me as a coach, especially as a relationship and as a success coach, parenting for me is the process of self evolution. Because only when we evolve to understand the child can we actually mold and influence them to make them the best versions of themselves. And that is key to being a good parent. Parenting is about winning your child's trust. It is not about how much of academic knowledge you have, how rich you are, how much you can afford, what are the things you can do. No. Parenting is about establishing that trust, and that trust is built over time. You cannot expect to be a parent of a teenage daughter and ask her to come and talk to you about her secrets and her crushes suddenly. It doesn't work that way. If you want your teenage daughter to come and talk to you when she is 14 or 15, you have to start working on building that trust from when she is born. That is what we're going to talk about today on how do we build trust and how everything in parenting has to do with your attitude and the attitude you take towards children and people in general. Let's start this with a very interesting story. Okay. Uh, how many of us have gone to circus? Can we get some kind of a reply on my live group? How many of us have gone to circus? If yes, can I just get yes? Can I just get a yes if we have actually been to a circus and we've seen those circus elephants and animals perform for us? Can I get some reaction that we have seen that? Hey, hi Umid, hi Gurpreet, Sat Shri Akal, hi Kavita, thank you for joining in. Uh, yes, many times, says Gurpreet. Have you ever thought about why an elephant who is so big, majestic, strong, is actually scared of the mahout? This is why. Okay, so when elephant is small, the elephant is picked up as a baby from the mother or from a forest, but brought in captivity and then raised by attaching that small elephant to a picketed fence, right? So there is a fence, there is a chain around it, and then the elephant is attached there. And whatever the elephant does right from birth, right from their adolescence, right, that elephant tries to pull, tries to move, but it realizes that I cannot go more than a certain bit. And that certain bit is what is determined by his parent or the mahout. And that certain bit is the length of the cord or the length of the chain, which is the freedom that we give the elephant. And in that space, in that freedom, the elephant can go round and round and round that single picketed fence. and he realizes, okay, this is my boundary, that is my belief system. Why is this story important? Because our belief system tells us what our boundaries are. Our belief system tells us how much we can extend ourselves, how strong we can become, how successful we can become, and how much longer we can run. It is our belief system that prevents us and causes us to fail. This is very, very important self awareness realization that I want you as parents to think about. Parenting is not about rules, discipline, and accolades and achievements. It is about giving them the right belief system so that tomorrow they can face the world. And that's very, very important. What is the belief system, right? There are four stages of belief system. Today we're going to quickly talk about all of that. The first belief system is at the age of 0 to 7, which is called the imprinting period. What is imprinting period? During the imprinting period, the child is listening and paying attention to the parents around them. For the child, it is binary, 0 or 1, black or white. So, all parents who have children up to the age of 7, I really want to pay attention to this and take care, right? That when you get upset at a child who's so young, the child feels, oh, anger means my behavior was not right. When you laugh and you encourage the child says, oh, I need to be silly. So next time, when you're encouraging silliness and you're laughing and clapping hands at silliness, the child assumes that to be silly is good. But the same silliness, when the child becomes 10-year-old, you shout at the parent, you shout at the child, how can you be so silly? Don't you have brains? Do we not say that to our children? Because we start telling them and encouraging the silliness when they were young. We think we are encouraging them, but belief system is key to how a child and an entire human being evolves. The second phase is the modeling period from the age of 8 till the age of 13. During this time, the children are very young. They are modeling after people around them. They have their eyes and ears peeled on the people around them, their mom, their dad, relatives, teachers, social influencers. These are the people that actually govern and influence the child in more ways than you can ever imagine. So, it is very, very important for you to be a good role model, which is why I said parenting has everything to do with the attitude you take towards people, yourself, and your children. The next phase is 13 to 21. It's called as the socialization phase. At that phase, they are teenagers. They are influenced by people around them, by society, by media, by other influencers, by their peer group. What do they do? This is the phase where they are looking and seeking to form social bonds. They're looking and finding people who think like them. This is when that popularity or groupism comes. You know how we feel key to be popular is to be surrounded in a group. It is very important that we have quantity versus quality. This phase is responsible for that feeling. And unfortunately, that feeling remains with most of us even after we grow up. Now, if you look around yourself and if you're honest, how many of us can identify adults who still want to be popular, who still want to be social, who still want that validation from people around us, who still seek popularity and quantity versus quality? Parenting is an art, like Manpreet said, but it is an art with a lot of knowledge behind it. It is a science. It is a science which, when we empower ourselves, we are able to do it in a manner where the children can be molded and influenced to become the best versions of themselves. That is your job as a parent. That is the reason why you were chosen to become a parent. Let's not forget that. The last phase is after the age of 21 up till death. It is called as the actualization phase. In that phase, it is where we are content with all our belief systems, and that is the phase where we push ourselves and to become who we want to become. We are following our passion. We are ignoring the society, and we are developing our identity in a way and trying to actualize ourselves and find a path that takes us to a greater calling in a way. Now that you have learned about the belief system, the next time when you are with a child or around a child, if you're a coach or a teacher or a parent or a grandmom, I want you to keep this in mind. Remember, under 7, imprinting stage. Whatever you do, the children are looking at it, and whatever you do, it's like a chap on them. It's just imprinted in their memory. 8 to 13, to recap, the modeling period. You are their role model. Be very careful on how you behave, how you talk. You cannot expect them to be disciplined. You cannot expect them to not watch TV when what you do is watching TV all the time. 13 to 20, socialization phase. You cannot expect your teenage children to stop being on the phone, to stop using WhatsApp, to stop giving so much of importance to their friends when you yourself, as parents, are doing that. If you are actually socializing a lot, going for parties, going and giving so much of importance on social validation, your children are going to follow that. Be very careful. Your actions is what they are going to learn from. The last is actualization phase, which for now is not important and relevant where parenting is concerned. Next, let's get to the learning styles. Can Virat Kohli be a Dhoni? Answer is no, right? The styles are very different. Dhoni has his perfections, Virat his own. Both of them have their own imperfections. Similarly, can Jadeja be a Hardik Patel? No, they cannot. Can Deepika Padukone be a Anushka Sharma? No, they cannot. You cannot compare two children, not even two siblings. That's the worst mistake you can do when you compare your children. The reason why this is important, and the only thing that I'm going to tell you is that 3 learning styles are present in how children learn. They are either visual learners, either auditory learners, or kinesthetic learners. Now, typically, my parenting workshop is a 4 to 5 hour workshop where the parent and the children come together and we give them a lot of worksheets and we make them understand and come up with a plan on how they can talk to each other. As part of that, there is a worksheet that the children do, which unfortunately I cannot share right now. And I am trimming this to come in the stipulated time for this live program. But keep in mind, there are 3 types of learners. Someone who's a visual learner learns with the eyes. Someone who's an auditory learner learns with their ears and listening. And someone who's a kinesthetic learner learns by actions. Gurpreet Kaur asks me, handling teenagers is very, very difficult. Gurpreet, I will definitely answer your question as we get further down. And Simpy has also asked me a question, how do we tackle when children back answer? I do have an answer to that, which is going to come forward. And if I don't answer that, I will come back to your question and answer it very categorically. This was just to give you information on how the different learning styles are so that it makes you more patient. But when you are teaching children, this is what I want you to pay attention. If you want your child to be able to learn and hold things within themselves for a longer time. This is what you need to do, especially the parents of younger children. There are three types of learnings, right? Cognitive learning, emotional learning, and psychomotor learning. Cognitive learning is typically how most parents use, where we just do gyan, where we're just talking and we asking the child or the children to follow what we are saying. Keep in mind, thinking, learning through thought processes is the least useful kind of learning. Science shows us that this type of learning is forgotten 80% of the times. How do we up this type of learning? By taking notes. Because while you are listening, which is auditory learning, when you begin taking notes, you are honing your brain and your mind to become smarter. So you're also visualizing and honing in the visual learning. So you're using two types of learning, which means your brain is becoming sharper and smarter. And the moment you do that, the ability to retain and hold information in your brain increases. The second layer, these are all layers and techniques that you can employ to make sure that your child is able to hold information better. That is what I am answering right now. The second layer, above the cognitive layer, is emotional learning. If we are able to attach emotions to what the child is learning, the child will never forget the lesson for the rest of their life. Think about it, right? All of us. Think about something from your school that you remember. There was always some emotion associated with it. Either someone did masti in class, either there was a prank, or there was a learning, or I will give you an example myself, right? When I learned the in ninth, 10th standard, the female reproduction system, it was an eye opener for me because I found that the most beautiful thing being a science student. And I have never ever forgotten that. Even today, I can actually draw the entire diagram and explain exactly how that happens. That is what I mean by emotional learning. If you can allow and encourage your child to attach emotions to what they want to learn, they will remember that lesson for the rest of their life. This is especially important for English, math, science. Now you know how you can get that foundation strong. The third is psychomotor learning. Psychomotor learning is most beneficial because it is a combination of two. If you are able to involve the child and make them do something by themselves, like actually stitch by themselves, cycle, draw by themselves, perform an experiment by themselves, the learning sticks. That was where learning was concerned. Now I'm entering the phase where your questions were targeted to. Emotion, that's the mother of all concerned. How do we as parents know that something is wrong? Something is wrong with our child or something is wrong with us? Obviously, through emotions. If it is physical, we become sick. But when we are disturbed, acting out, not being true to who we are, you know that there is emotional disturbance. That can happen with you, that can also happen with your child. So when your child is behaving in that manner, it is time for you to be the mature person here and back out and try and understand what is happening to your child. Okay, how do we handle that? Coming to that part about how do we handle teenagers. Teenagers will act out because they are fighting with themselves. They are fighting with their belief systems. They are undergoing a phenomenon called as cognitive dissonance. Let me quickly explain what cognitive dissonance is, and hopefully, Gurpreet, I can answer your question here. Cognitive dissonance is when I am being made to do something that is against my belief system, which means that at home, I tell my child, for instance, you are not to stay out late beyond 9 p.m. Or maybe I say you are not to stay out late beyond 8 p.m. 8 p.m., I want you home. But if they have friends and a social circle that is allowing them or forcing them to stay beyond 8 and they are doing that, they are fighting with themselves. So while they are fighting with themselves, they become disturbed, they become impatient, and they react to you because you, dear parent, is the closest thing that belongs to them, and that is their way of handling that situation. How do you tackle this? By the internalization process, by understanding where that behavior is coming from. What is that thought that is causing this behavior? You cannot punish the behavior all the time, right? And punishing behavior is not going to give you the results you want. You want the child to be yours. You want the child to trust you and come back to you time and again. And you do that by reverse engineering the thought internalization process. What is that? Thoughts lead to feelings. Feelings lead to attitude. Attitude lead to actions. Actions lead to outcome. Let's do a simple experiment and then I will put it in the context of a teenager or any child and how we can deal with it. Right? But first is you as a parent need to understand this very well so that it is crystal clear in your head. Unfortunately, you're not in front of me. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of movement and talking and a lot of energy in the workshop. But we don't really have a choice and we're doing it via online right now. Immediately, I want you to think about someone that you don't like. Can you think about someone that you don't like? I'm giving you 5 seconds to think about someone that you don't like. Someone that you're upset with right now. Someone at work, a friend, your spouse, child, anyone, doesn't matter. Next, what emotions are you feeling? I want you to write P if it's positive, N if it's negative. What emotion are you feeling right now when you're thinking of a negative person? I want some activity here. Please write N if it's negative, P if it's positive. What are you feeling when you think of someone that you're upset with, someone that is causing you disturbance, and someone that's hurting you right now? Your emotion is negative. Next, what attitude do you find yourself holding right now? Right? Are you feeling impatient, intolerant towards that person, frustrated? Yes, because you are already in a negative frame of mind. And once you're in a negative frame of mind, you're already frustrated, and that feeling of, I don't want to see that person, I'm upset with that person. You have already boxed yourself in that attitude. Now, if that person was to come in front of you, what do you think you would do? You would shout at that person. You would scream at that person. You would be impatient at that person. You would not be a good listener or a good communicator with that person. After having done that action, after having done that negative behavior, what do you think is going to happen? Your outcome is not what you wanted. Your outcome suddenly becomes something that you are regretful about. It becomes something that you did not really intend to do. How did it start? With that one seed, that thought that was in your mind. It's just like in a way that the Barney says. So everything begins with a thought. Now, change that quickly. Take 1 minute to run through this entire cycle when you think of a positive thought. Think of your mother, think of your child, right? Where the love is selfless. The moment you think of your mom, you feel happy. You are energized. And when you're in that positive frame of mind, does not matter who is in front of you, you are tolerant and patient and accepting with that person. And when you are patient and tolerant, are you going to lash out with that person? No. You're going to listen and uh, behave with that person, which is more conducive. And once you behave with that person in a good manner, you have an outcome that you are proud of. Why is this important? Because as parents, we fail our children. Many at times, we are shouting at our children, berating at our children, and they don't know why. In our head, the thought is crystal clear. Why? Because we have gone through thought, feeling, attitude, response, and the outcome. We think, and we already have intolerance in our head, but the child is not understanding. You have to correlate thought and behavior in a certain way. Now, let's come back to the question. If your child is acting out, if the teenage child is not listening to you, keep in mind today's generation, Gurpreet, is a generation of purpose, right? We had, you can think of parenting as a three generation step. The older generation, which is our parents, their generation of parenting was that of perseverance, was that of just grit, where they did not really have time for their children. They got a job, and all they did was that job day in and out. So their way of life was just doing the grind and persevering and doing the grind. From the time that they started working till the time that they died, all they did was the grind, the grind, the grind. Then you have the next generation, which is the generation of thought, the generation of passion, which maybe some of us come into, right? This generation is a generation where we want to become happy. Everything is not about just the grind. It is, I want to do what I enjoy doing. I want to do what I'm passionate about. Excuse me, which is why we have people entering fields besides just medicine and engineering. Our generation reached out and understood that. Then you have the current generation, which is where your teenagers come in play, which is where your 20 to 25-year olds come into play as well. This generation is a generation of purpose. This generation wants to do something and leave its mark in the footprints of time. So, when you are handling your teenagers, especially, you need to ask yourself, what are they thinking and what do they want? Are you able to understand your teenager? Reverse engineer your thought process and come down to their thoughts. Try and understand what they are saying. It comes through practice. I know there is no real answer to it. And again, if this was a workshop, I could have shown you how, and what we could do between your child and yourself and how we can get that communication going. There are multiple steps to it, but I am short of resources, and really, this is not a one on one workshop. So I'm doing the best I can. But this is something you have to do on your own right now. Figure out what they are thinking. And very important, be good listeners. I'll give you another example, right? A lady called Shaila came to me as one of my clients. She brought in a teenage daughter called Mia. Now, Shaila and Mia were not talking to each other. Mia is a 15-year-old child, and Shaila, uh, her mom. So when Shaila came to me, she was anxious. She literally broke down in my office and she said, I am losing my daughter. You need to help me. There is nothing that I do that can bring her close to me. I have tried everything. She is more about her friends, her Instagram, her social media. Nothing I do is bringing her back to me. This was a real case and a real client. The names are changed, of course, for confidentiality purposes. When I started counseling them, we had to build the internalization process in both of them. That was the step number one. The step number two, what we realized and what I made both of them realize, that the parent and the child were fighting with each other to become the better communicator. The parent wanted to be right all the time because the parent thought, I am the parent. I am older than you. I have more information. So I, by default, am right. And because I'm right, I'm older, you need to respect me. Whatever I say, you need to follow. But the child, the today's generation child, said, I have purpose. I have thought. I have passion. I need to do something that works for me. So she thought she was intelligent. And when both of them at that same level are fighting with each other, not to understand each other, but to determine who is better, who is higher, who has more ego, who is more important, there was no communication between mother and daughter. There is a lot of information about active listening blocks that we employ, which actually is a spin-off of the Gerard listening framework. He's one of our popular psychologists. We cannot get into that because of lack of time, but it is something that I would recommend that you follow. The listening framework actually gives us a lot of information on how we go wrong as communicators. I'll give you very quick examples so that you have something to take away from, especially when you are dealing with your children, especially teenagers. When we are busy rehearsing a response, parents, when our teenage children are talking to us, it's not all right. And we do that so much. We feel we are better off. We feel we are more intelligent. So while the child is telling us what they did, we in our head are thinking, oh, what do we have to answer? Sometimes communication is about understanding. Listening and talking are just two forms of communication. That is not why we communicate. We communicate to understand. When the child realizes that uh, you have your own agenda, especially a teenage child, that whatever the child says, aap ghum fir ke you give the same answer. No, you need to follow this. Yes, you cannot go out. Yes, you need to dress this way. Yes, you cannot have your gadgets. If every discussion you have comes down to that response, you parent are repelling them. Second, unnecessary fact finding. Yes, you are more intelligent than your child. When a child comes and talks to you about, let's say, something that is happening, a news, something that is about current affairs, can you stop fact finding? Or when they come and talk to you about maybe what's happening with their friends, can you stop fact finding? What is fact finding? Don't get caught up in the story and tell them, hey, this is where you were wrong. Oh, the COVID cases today are not 2.5 lakhs, it is actually close to 3 lakhs. If you are doing this with your children, you are doing them a disservice. That is not being a good communicator, and that's not being a good parent. Your job is to understand their emotion and the thought, not judge their behavior. Next, parental advice giving, which we do a lot of. When we give advice, we have already set ourselves up as we know better than that person, that you are already superior. That is not okay. Do you know how much your children today can teach you if only you allow them to teach you? And once you allow them to teach you, dear parents, you would have formed a bond where they will come back to teach you as you grow older. And you want that relationship with them. When I am 60 years old and I am not good with technology, I want my son and my daughter to feel it is okay to teach my mom. I have been teaching her since I was a child, and she accepts it. She doesn't shout at me, she doesn't judge me. I want to teach her. That feeling needs to come from now. So allow your children to talk to you. Inaccurate assumptions, external factors. Those are the common listening blocks that we all employ. When you are talking to to your child, please don't be on the phone. Don't talk to your mom over here and then talk to your child. Don't cook and then listen to your child. Don't do that. When your child wants to talk to you, give them your full attention. That is your investment. If you can actually do that, that is the seed that you are planting as a parent, and that seed is going to grow up into a tree whose shade you are going to sit under. The benefit is going to be yours. You need to do that. So that is about That is about some of the listening blocks that we were talking about. Yes, Manpreet, parenting is about knowing that your child is always watching you. We did talk about that in the belief system, where you are a role model for your children, and you have to be aware of your attitude. One more thing I'd like to tell you is that don't teach your children shrewdness, and don't talk about how you are extra clever in front of your children. They are using this and learning this cleverness, and this cleverness is going to be used on you, whether you like it or not. And that is a part of the modeling phase again. And that is something that again I am facing in my clients. When you feel that my child lies so much, I have in fact another client who comes and tells me that my child is always lying. I don't know why. I'm such an honest person. We live with honesty and spirituality, but my child is all about making excuses. I think there is something mentally wrong. I wish there was something really mentally wrong with the child, but it's not. The child has picked up that attitude from the people around the child. Let me give you simple examples, right? Very simple, which a lot of people do. You get gifts for your children's birthday, and a lot of the gifts are something that we repurpose because either the child already has that, or we think the gift is not good enough, or we feel that the child has outgrown it. So we keep those gifts away, right? And when it is a child's friend's birthday or someone else's birthday, we go to that cupboard and we pick up a gift. And we pick up that gift, we wrap it up and pretend like it's new and it's bought, and we repurpose it. Repurposing is not bad. I'll tell you what the bad part is. The bad part is when you're repurposing it, you are talking to your child. You are telling your child, Kisi ko nahi kehna. Don't tell anyone that you had this at home. Okay, don't do that. Who's teaching cunningness and clever tricks to your child now? So the child thinks, oh, my mother is doing that. So it must be a good thing. It means I need to do that too. Because if I do that, I am clever. Because you have attached the tag of being clever with the act of repurposing something and not, I don't want to say lying about it, but keeping mum about it. This is how the children pick up on your tricks. Second, phone calls, right? If someone calls you at work, these fathers do that. I'm telling you instances that have worked for me, that I have seen through my clients. And I'm hoping it's common enough that it can help you associate with it. Many fathers get some phone calls at work, especially those in the business families. I'm not talking about IT people here, I'm talking about business families. And the children see sometimes when the call comes, the father says, "Arey usko bolte main ghar pe nahi hu. Just tell them I'm not at home." When the child sees the dad lying and avoiding someone, it becomes an okay behavior for them to do. So it is very, very important that you are fully aware of what you are doing and how you are doing. There is a reason why the older generation people would do everything behind the screens. The problem is we are doing everything out in the open. And when we are doing out in the open, we're creating a generation that is questioning us, that is not trusting us, and that is growing up with a very fixed mindset. I will take some questions right now. Gurpreet asks another question. Yes, I do that, and my son gets irritated as he wants my attention. Exactly, Gurpreet. Right? When we give them full attention, we are also teaching the child that when you, son, are talking to someone that you love, you need to give them full attention. Every act you do, everything that you do is going to be mimicked by them. There is no two ways about it. Don't think, aaj main, I can do chalaki right now, and tomorrow my child is going to turn out to be Harish Chandran. He's going to serve me. Sorry. The way you treat people around you is what the child is learning. And believe it or not, when that child is 40 and you are 60, the child will treat you the way you treated people when you were 40. That's the reason they say karam, right? Umid says, so strictness should be stopped. No, Umid. Strictness and discipline. See, so strictness comes from the generation of grind, the first generation. I think what really works, Umid, is a combination of all three generations. And we, being the middle generation, actually have an edge and advantage over this. What I mean by that is, we know our children are purpose driven. We know our parents and our grandparents were driven by providing food on the table. We were driven by passion. How do we marry those three to come up in attitude and behavior that works for children? Discipline is a must. Consequences are important, because the moment you stop giving children consequences, they will not realize the consequences of their cause. The cause and effect equation is very important. But how we do the discipline is key, right? Don't be disciplined by explaining the thought process. And sometimes if you want to be disciplined by just saying I am a parent, do that also. Both are important. In my experience, don't be in a hurry to explain and justify everything, because the moment you do that, you're also empowering the child with too much power, something that they cannot handle. So don't be one of those parents that is sitting and talking to the children and explaining everything and making everything a logical act. That is also wrong. For example, you have to eat your food. I'm your parent, you have to finish what's on your table. You cannot waste food, or you have to go to the Babaji room every day. Things that are important to you, that is a part of building the ecosystem of the child. Be strict and be disciplined. But don't enforce strictness in something that you are breaking. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Because that causes cognitive dissonance in your child's mind. And that makes them lose faith in you. And it creates a memory in their mind, which they will then follow once they are older. So be strict on things that you yourself are following. But that said, they cannot be a comparison, right? If I'm working, of course, I'm going to be on my gadget and my phone a lot longer. I cannot allow my teenage son to tell me, but mom, you're on the phone a lot more, so allow me to be on my phone. No, that's where maturity comes into play. Some things are unacceptable, and some things, like comparing, that so you be strict, but you be strict in thought process, in what you want to teach your child. So you're not strictness in behavior, be strict in the thought that you want them to inculcate, right? So for example, I am being strict with my children that you cannot compare yourself to the parents. It's not about any action. Be strict about the thought that you have to have value for money. Be strict in the thought that you have to have love, respect, and be egalitarian, what Guru Nanak Dev Ji taught us, for example. So you are being strict and disciplined, but you're being disciplined in the thought. It is not about an action. I hope that answers your question, Umid. Sony says, how do we deal with oversensitive kids? That is a tough one, Sony. It really comes down to understanding why they are oversensitive. I spoke earlier about an internalization process. I'm not sure if you were able to hear it. But oversensitivity comes with a thought that that they have in mind. Oversensitivity is a behavior that is manifested by some insecurity that they have. Okay, so we have to understand, what are they insecure about? Are they insecure about people? Are they anxious? Is society, some color, something in their environment is overwhelming them? Typically oversensitive kids have something in the environment that overwhelms them. We need to understand what is overwhelming them. Maybe it is you talking loudly. Maybe it is fights at home. Maybe it is, fights in the serials, the kind of media that you guys are watching. It could be anything. Reasons are multiple. We have to understand and get down to the origin of why and where the oversensitivity is coming from. If the child is young, if the child is a teenager, then a lot of it is also hormonal, and I would ask you to be patient. Crying, uh, acting up, being intolerant, tears, walking away, stamping feet is all a part of hormones. If that is something that your child is showing, it is a part of the teenage development. So, from the time of preteens till the time they are over 18, you will see manifestations of the child's sensitivity in different forms depending upon their reaction. The other question, okay, so Sony actually says sibling rivalry makes him insecure. You have your answer, Sony. Sibling rivalry is what makes him insecure. And if that's the case, I urge you, actually, as a psychotherapist, that and as a relationship coach, that you address this right away. This is very, very important, Sony, because if it is sibling rivalry and you do not address that, that oversensitivity will lead to so many insecurities that it will destroy your child's future. It will make him into a personality that he was never meant to be. And there is nothing that you will be able to do at that point of time. So, as parents, you need to address it right now. If you need, take help of a counselor. Again, doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone, but definitely use intervention where it is possible, because now you're going in the area of psychology, and help is most beneficial when it is timely. I We are almost out. Is there any other questions that I can answer for you all? There's one thing that I can, thanks Sony, please do that. There is one thing that I do want to tell you all parents, that children of for today, okay, their inner compass is always aligned with their inner purpose. That inner moral compass is what we have to enable and mold as parents. Our job is not to make them shine from the outside. Our job is to make that inner compass so strong, so courageous, that they are able to handle everything. Our job is to give them that kind of strength and courage where they know it is okay for them to fail and come back to us and talk to us about their failure. Do not shout at them when they fail. Do not make fun of them. Do not compare them. In fact, talking about comparison, I'm going to give you a few um, extra tips that I thought I'd talk about if I have more time. How many of you, as parents, catch yourself doing that, right? This is a very common phenomenon that I see in my modern parents. And in fact, this is a separate workshop that I do, which is about mindset. There was a post about it in the CAT group earlier that I had posted. Now, coming back, tell me if you're guilty of doing this. How many of you have ever told your child, "Good job, you are such a fast learner"? As teachers, as parents, as coaches, we are all guilty of that. Second common thing that we talk about, variations. Whoa, look how talented you are and how well you draw. Now, I'm taking the example of drawing. It could be how well you run, how well you perform, how well you speak, or whatever. Third example that I want you to really think about. Look how popular you are. You are so good with people. Do you find anything wrong in this? I'm willing to bet no. There is so much wrong with this, parents. Yes, children today need praise. We are raising our children in a scenario where praise and encouragement is very important. But we are encouraging them with statements like this. There's no harm in saying good job. The problem is, good job, you're such a fast learner. Do you know how the child actually heard this statement? The child thought, oh, if I don't learn fast, I am no good. You just created an insecurity in your child. Second, you said, look how talented you are and how well you draw. What the child heard, oh, if I don't draw well, I lack talent. You created lack of faith in your child. Third, look how popular you are. You are so good with people. What the child heard is, that means if I'm not popular, I'm not good with people. I have some social skills that are not good. You created fear and social anxiety in your child. By lavishing praise on our children and causing extra encouragement, we are creating a generation of fixed mindset. And this mindset is unfortunately going to harm them and bring them down. Our job is to teach them to push their boundaries so that they can become the best version of themselves. So, parents, on my parting note, all I want to say is use restraint. Be very careful about the words and your attitude around them, because your only job as a parent is to make your children the most successful that they can be, to make your kids the best versions of themselves. And if that best version is to become a singer, a housewife, a chef, a cook, a professor, a teacher, or a millionaire, that's not up to you to decide. But give them enough where they can become the best versions of themselves. I hope this was a useful session. Um, it was a lot that I wanted to say, and I tried to put in a lot. Think about it and definitely go out and become the best parents that you can be. Thank you, Umid. I appreciate your response. Thank you so much. I'm glad it worked out. Bye. And anyone else who has questions can reach out to me. Do follow my Facebook page, my YouTube, and my Instagram. I actually have a lot of free videos, a lot of free information that I do put on all of my three resources, actually, mostly my Facebook and my YouTube. And this information is because I do really want to create a community where we are optimistic, positive, and we're enabling each other. That is my quest. I am very serious about that, and I hope you join me in my journey of helping and creating that community and sharing that information so that we are able to enable ourselves and each other. I will post the link when I post the video. The Facebook and YouTube are yours for joining. Thank you so much. Bye bye.